so where I want to start out this video here today is showing you a 3-year chart of Tesla stock, right? It's been a rough past 3 years. The stock price is down over 16% in the past 3 years. Now, we know, obviously, the financials of Tesla have gotten a lot better over the past 3 years, but nonetheless, the stock price is still down quite significantly in the past 3 years. It gets much worse, though. If I pull up a 30-month chart of Tesla, ouch, 57% down in the past 30 months. And it's not like that's really a short period of time, right? If a stock's down a lot on a 1-month chart or a 3-month chart or even a 6-month chart, even a 12-month chart, a lot of times you can kind of like, whatever, it's just something going on in the short term. When it's a 30-month chart and the stock price has been cut over in half, that's rough, right? Now, keep in mind, there was a lot of people that got into the stock at very bad pricing, and there was a little too much hype and excitement back at that particular time. Everybody was talking about Tesla 10 trillion. No one was talking about Tesla margins getting hit negatively, sales getting hit negatively. No one was talking about the Fed going up on interest rates or any of those sorts of things. It was just, everybody was just in this delusional phase of only positive in regards to Tesla, except for me, the guy who was positive about Tesla when everybody was negative on Tesla back in the day, right? And I was warning people back then, hey, we can have some things go wrong here. Sure enough, we've obviously had a lot go wrong, right? Now, Elon Musk, this leads us to Elon Musk, right? A once beloved genius, the hope for the future. That was, if we go back to Elon Musk's brand many years ago, this was Elon Musk's brand. Even 3 years ago, 5 years ago, this was his brand. He was known as this like, almost like I don't want to say like a godlike figure, but somewhat of a godlike figure in regards to the business landscape. People loved Elon Musk. If they didn't love him, they really didn't have much of an opinion. There was like maybe 1% of people really like hated Elon Musk, but most either felt indifferent about him or they looked up to him like a legend, like, oh my gosh, he's a help for humanity. He gives us all hope, right? And things have changed. They've changed immensely, right, in regards to that. I mean, it was a perfect example. I go on Google and I type in Elon Musk, and usually it'll show somebody's Twitter profile, and X now they call it, right? And what's his latest tweet or post or whatever we call it nowadays? 2 hours ago he posted this, right? The new woke times is truly unreadable, and the racial bias built into photography. Now, you might agree with that, you might disagree with that, but one thing you can't disagree with in regards to this, right, is this is a very political-based type statement, right? This is, clearly shots at a major news publication, right? The New York Times is extremely famous even outside the United States, but especially in the United States. And, going that sort of route, the new woke times is truly unreadable. This is the type of tonality and the way Elon Musk has been speaking the last couple of years, which isn't going to make you many friends out there. It's going to make you a lot of enemies, right? Now, I told you guys it was going to be a bad idea for him to buy X, Twitter, because it was going to hurt Tesla immensely, right? And I explained all that a couple of years ago. And sure enough, right? And he was, at that time, it was all about free speech and these sorts of things. But people that are against Elon Musk will push back and they'll say, you aren't really free speech. They'll point out, people that have been blocked, that maybe have negative things to say about him and things like that, right? So there's kind of like that contradiction of like, is it really free speech or is it not, right? You have Elon Musk obviously doing stuff like this. Like, this is very common for him. Is like, what I'm showing you, this isn't like some one-off, like, whoa, Elon Musk, that's weird, he's posted that. Like, whoa, this is not at all. Like, this is the norm. You're going to probably see several posts a week from Elon Musk saying stuff like this, doing, stuff like this, right? Which you might agree with, you might disagree with. You might think that's funny. You might think that's disrespectful. You might think that's like, really, this is supposed to be one of the hopes for humanity, like trying to, be a center of attention, right? And so this is where you get into the situation with Elon Musk, where it's like, do you want to be Trump? Do you want to be an influencer? Or do you want to be the CEO of the most important company in the world, right? Because many people view Tesla as one of the most important companies of the world for the next 10, 20, 30 years, or at least one of the most respected, most, hope for the humanity type companies over the next many decades, right? And so this is the questions we have, right? And when you're constantly posting these memes and you're constantly saying stuff like this, people start to, even people that might agree with you, even people that might be laughing, like I might have laughed at that, right? And even if you agree with this, right? Oh yeah, they are the new woke times. Okay, you agree with that. Even then, you start to ask yourself, like, why are you not focused on Tesla? Why are you posting all this stuff all the time, these memes, these things that are taking shots at this? If you're really running one of the most important companies in the world, you need to be focused on that. Jensen at Nvidia is not out there, tweeting memes and, all this other stuff, right? Tim Cook's not doing that at Apple. Satya Nadella is not doing that at Microsoft. Zuck's not doing that. These people aren't doing this sort of stuff. Well, maybe Zuck's doing a little bit now at this point in time. Maybe he's going Elon Musk's route as well. I have seen him posting some more stuff. Not nearly to the level that Elon Musk does, but still, you look at the other guys and they're not really doing that. So that's a question, right? And that's a very negative question in general. If you have to even question if somebody's actually focused on their job of leading one of the most important companies in the world, that's already a problem, right? So that leads us to Tesla, right? Even after this crash, this is still a $548 billion company, right? Absolutely massive. Now, Elon Musk, he has obviously been, pushing a lot of a certain type of agenda, right? And this has led him to essentially, this was as of last year, I bet you the number's even better for him now in regards to this. But if you went back for, 2021, how many people view Twitter as basically mostly bad for democracy? For people that were Republican or lean Republican, 60% viewed Twitter, now known as X, as mostly bad for democracy, right? Incredible number. He's got that number as of last year all the way down to 21%. I bet it would be even better if we had a poll this year in terms of, how many Republicans or lean Republicans view Twitter X as a mostly bad thing for democracy. So it has helped there. Now we're talking about 79 percentage points of no impact or mostly good from the Republican side or lean Republican side versus previous, it was 39%. So we're talking about a 40 percentage point jump there. Incredible, right? Now, in terms of Democrats or folks that lean Democrat, they haven't gone that negative against Twitter. If you look here, we're up to about 35% of Dems or lean Dems view X as mostly bad, right? So about 65% say no impact or mostly good. So overall, he's actually, believe it or not, somehow helped the numbers in regards to X, in regards to how people view Twitter in regards to American democracy. It's gotten actually way less negative at this point in time, right? Now, so that's that whole situation. And the reason I bring up all that is because these are serious questions people ask, right? And the other reason I bring it up is maybe there's a method to his madness, right? We didn't get this far by accident. Maybe, just maybe, there's a method to his madness. And all this will end up being a long-term help, even though it doesn't really look like a help right now. Maybe it is, right? I don't know. Maybe there's something there, something to be considered, right? Remember, Tesla really never had Republicans, attention before Elon Musk started to go a certain way, right? Now, I would say, I know a lot of Republicans that love Elon Musk now. And these folks never talked about Elon prior to 2 years ago. And now they're reposting stuff. They love him. I don't know. Maybe he's got something there. Maybe he's on something, right? No, this leads us to Cybertruck, right? Obviously, if you're going to be successful in the truck market, you better sell to Republicans too, right? Now, the threat has arrived in regards to Cybertruck. This baby, you're going to see it on the roads. I hope you guys see it on the roads. I'm already seeing them in Vegas. I've seen probably 10 to 20 Cybertrucks now out here in Vegas, right? Now, it's interesting, right? Because I was talking about Cybertruck recently, and there's some folks saying, oh, Cybertruck, this is no threat to trucks. Because I was making a point, it was probably a week or two ago, last time I spoke about Tesla, and I was making a point that GM is starting to take Tesla very serious, and they're trying to ramp up their electric vehicles in regards to the truck market specific, right? And this is a major threat. People don't even realize how big of a threat this is, right? And so let me take you back. Let me do a little history lesson for folks. So Model S comes out back in 2012, right? And so they ramp it in 2013, 2014. And if you look back then, Tesla was delivering 22,000 vehicles a year, 31,000 vehicles a year. And you could have looked back then and you could have said, Model S, Tesla's no threat to cars. They're no threat to cars. Give me a break. It's a joke, right? 2017, they were, ramping Model X at this particular time, right? And you could have said, psh, Model X, they're no threat to SUVs. Give me a break. It's a joke, right? And they sold a little over 100,000 vehicles in 2017 in total, right? But the fact was, Tesla was a big threat. People might not have viewed it as a threat. They might have laughed it off at that particular time. But Tesla was a massive threat. Guess what the best-selling passenger car was in the world last year? It was called a Tesla Model Y. Isn't that phenomenal? Outselling the unstoppable, unbeatable Toyota Corolla and dusting the Toyota RAV4, dusting the Ford F-Series pickup truck lineup that you thought couldn't be beat, outstripping a vehicle that you thought couldn't be outsold, the Honda CR-V. You'd be flipping my flapjacks. And meanwhile, Model 3 sold a very impressive 200,000 plus units last year as well, right? Absolutely incredible for the 12th best-selling passenger vehicle out there, right? Now, Model 3, by the way, saw it when I went the new Model 3 in depth. When I went to the service center this past week, baby looks good. Looks really good. I used to have a Model 3 many, many years ago. I really liked the update they did, and I think that's going to be a huge breath of fresh air for Tesla overall. I think a lot of people have forgotten about the Model 3 in terms of thinking about this for kind of being a game-changing product for Tesla's future. I look at Model 3 and I say, okay, Model 3, 200,000 something units sold, and I look at that Toyota Corolla at 1 million plus. I think that's where Model 3 is going long term. I think that's absolutely where Model 3 is going long term. I think the weakness in the short term is just the weakness in the short term. I think that will abate over time, right? This baby looks good. Really, really good in regards to that. Now, back to Cybertruck, right? This is just the start. The Cybertruck you see today is just the start. This is the vehicle to get a lot of attention, to get everybody talking, right? Which it has certainly done. I mean, the Cybertruck's probably the most famous vehicle in the world, and it literally just went into production, I mean, in the past, few months. That's incredible, right? But in regards to the pickup truck market, likely there's going to be a two-door, two-seat truck coming down the road, right? A much cheaper price point. Maybe a little more compact, maybe a little more built for work and not just for show. You got to keep in mind, you got a divided pickup truck market in general. It's important everybody understands this. You got the folks like my dad, who drives a pickup truck and has driven a pickup truck every day for the past 30 years, right? And he actually uses his pickup truck for work every single day. It's not just for show. So you have that segment of folks, right? Usually those people also, they don't drive new pickup trucks because they beat them up. They usually are the ones driving pickup trucks that are 10, 20, 30 years old, right? Then you have another segment of folks. These are the segment of folks that like to drive pickup trucks, and they don't actually really use them for work. They use them for commuting. They use them to drive to the grocery store. They use them to drive the family around. And there's not much work getting done in that pickup truck. They use the bed maybe a few times a year, and that's about that. So you have a very divided pickup truck market. Now, the current Cybertruck, this is phenomenal for the segment of people that buy pickup trucks, which is a large segment, who are really just driving because they like to drive pickup trucks. This is not a great vehicle necessarily for the work market. Do I see my dad driving a Cybertruck to go, clean pools and stuff like that? No. Do I see the landscaper using a Cybertruck to go do landscaping? No, okay? This is for the people that like to be cool and like to think like pickup trucks are cool. That's for that segment, okay, which is a huge segment. Tesla will likely have another Cybertruck of some kind coming down in a couple years from now that will be more compact, smaller, much more affordable, probably even under a $40,000 price point, and will be very attractive for much more of the work folks out there, okay? That's important to understand that about the pickup truck market. Out here, on the West Coast, there's a lot of people that drive pickup trucks. And when I say the West Coast, I don't really mean California per se. I'm really talking about Arizona, even out here in Vegas. If you go to Texas, I mean, just, pickup trucks everywhere, right? And so this is just a start. No different than if you look at the Model S and the Model X. Those paved the way for the Model 3 and the Model Y. Those were just a start. You could have easily said, oh, yeah, Tesla's no threat in cars. Tesla's no threat in SUVs. You were wrong, right? Maybe that particular one wasn't, But you were wrong about the long-term trajectory of what was actually happening with Tesla. These got a lot of attention. I still remember going into a Tesla store. This was probably like 2011 and 2012. And I still remember seeing the skateboard, the bottom of the Model S in a Tesla store. I hardly knew anything about Tesla back then. And I was like, dang, this is cool. And I got educated very quickly about, whoa, this Tesla company, this is a pretty cool company. Like they're doing some interesting stuff. Like they look at the battery pack on this thing, right? And then the Model X with the Falcon Wing doors. Like, how could you miss it? I mean, my gosh, just so epic. So these are what paved the way for the future. No different than the Cybertrucks paving the way for future pickup trucks from Tesla, right? Now, we can get caught up into Elon Musk and what Elon Musk is doing with X and all the drama and what he says and all those sorts of things. Let's be very clear, that's not the reason why Tesla stock has been going through a tough time, right? If it is, it's maybe 5 or 10 other percentage points. The much bigger deal has been margins. Margins have been going down for the last couple of years, right? They peaked a couple of years ago and they've been basically going down. Now, my belief is, and I've shared this many times on the channel, that margins bottom for the company front half of this year, right? So basically the period we're in right now, and then they start to increase and start to improve in the back half of this year, right? Which I don't see any reason why not. If I look, all the major price cuts are done now at this point in time. If anything, I think they could take some pricing here or there. And when I say take pricing, I'm talking about up pricing a little bit, right? It doesn't look like there's any major competitive, cost increases for Tesla. They're also always finding ways to basically save money in the business. Obviously, we heard about all the job cuts, right? That's going to end up helping margins. So when I look at this overall, I think margins are going to start to increase. And then Cybertruck, right? The first half of the year, brutal, because I would I'd probably say they're losing money on every Cybertruck sold in the front half of the year. I think there's a decent probability they're still going to start making money on Cybertrucks in the back half of the year, because then they'll actually be scaled. They'll be ramped. And that's when you really start to see some nice margins and profitability come in for a vehicle once you're ramped, okay? So Cybertruck should start helping as well. So if I look at this overall, I think we're going to start to see margins increase back half of the year. I think we're in the troughing period of margins right now, and things will get a lot better as the year ticks on, and then get even much better in 2025 for margins, right? Market is very expensive right now.
Market forecaster thinks it is the wrong time to go bullish on stocks. Julian Emanuel is the firm's senior managing director. His S&P 500 price target is more than 10% below today's close. Julian, welcome. Is it harder and harder to stick by that forecast as markets go higher and higher? Well, by definition, it is. There's no question about it. But let's think about it, right? The first 10 minutes of this conversation, we've been focused on valuation. Mm-hmm. It is something that I would say in the course of years of me being with you all, we've talked about very, very little. But the point being that, whether it's the consideration of earnings estimates that in our view are far too high, even though we had a good earnings quarter, but good earnings quarter was up 5.5%. The market thinks the full year is 10.5%. At 23.5 times earnings, whether it's the premier investment bank stock in the world, or it's the market in general, we just think this is a time to really think about risk reward here. Goldilocks, despite the fact that we're either at 2 or 1 or 0 cuts, continues to be priced very aggressively.
I think that's why you got to be balanced in this market, right? You guys know what I've been preaching to you. Be invested, right? Own the greatest companies in the world. Whatever happens, right? Recessions, no recessions, inflation, deflation, blah, blah, blah. Own the greatest companies in the world. 10, 15, 20 of the best, right? Own those. Buy, great companies that are at big discounts, right? That are at 52-week lows, multi-year lows, somewhere around there roughly, right? That the pricing is very attractive on great companies, right? And great assets. The stock that came to mind when I was thinking about that, Nike. Nike came to mind, right? Take advantage of those opportunities out there. Wynn Resorts, another perfect example, right? Take advantage of those opportunities out there. Keep some cash around. You can get 5%, if not over 5% on money at high yield savings right now, treasuries, if you got a high yield CD account, right? And make that easy money, 5% plus right now. Be balanced in this game. So that's my perspective. If you own the greatest companies in the world, they're going to perform. The stock price could move around. If all of a sudden the S&P 500 dropped 20, 30%, could the stock price go down? Sure, in the short term. That is what that is. As long as you're always got more income than expenses, you can buy the dip. And if you've been keeping some money in cash, earning you 5% plus, boom. And there's some major market drop, say S&P goes down 35%, boom, oh my gosh. Well, if you had some money there sitting over on the sidelines, 10, 20%, right, earning you 5% plus, and then you get that epic drop, right, boom, you're ready to deploy money in the market, right? And by that time, I mean, I can tell you if the S&P 500 dropped 35% or something insane like that happened, Fed's moving rates back down to zero in that situation. We know they would be in full panic mode. They would start lowering rates aggressively way before you ever got to 35%. And so they would be in full-blown panic mode. And so then you wouldn't be able to get your 5% over in cash, which then makes sense to buy assets aggressively at that particular time and take cash balance down very low, other than obviously having always cash for emergency expenses. It's an easy game, man. It's that easy game. People make it much more complicated than it really has to be. Shoot, man.
Yeah, it makes me crazy. I'm giving Julian a pass because
if I figured out this, a college dropout, you guys can figure this game out. This is not nearly as complicated as you might think.
We just don't talk about it on Turkey Day.
We'll talk about gold in a minute, please.
But I mean, in terms of where we are right now and the risk reward, one of the big risk events in the markets we've been talking about for weeks now is Nvidia's earnings, which are coming up this week. Volatility is still extremely low right now in general for the markets. And so I'm wondering how you reconcile that. And if you also think that, like many of the traders here, that Nvidia is actually going to be sort of the thing that either sets this rally higher or sets us back.
So it is one of the most unusual environments I think any of us have seen, because the amount of dispersion among stock returns is really record, which is why the index doesn't move. Think about today, right? We saw, Jamie Dimon's bank sell off the way it did. At the same time, we had 2+ billion shares in a number of meme stocks that, frankly, people don't know what the companies do and never even heard of them 2 weeks ago, buying and selling them. So it is a very unusual environment. And to us, in total, it says that risk in general is perhaps overpriced here. And it's not the end of the bull market in our view. And I think that's the message we got from Jamie Dimon today. It's just a time to sort of let things settle in for a while.
Julian, what's the deal with the VIX? I mean, we talk about the headwinds all the time, geopolitical stuff, blah, blah, blah. Closed below 12 on Friday.
It's incredible. It goes to the dispersion. It also goes to the fact that the game has morphed for now into one-day options, 0-day and one-day options. The one-day VIX today traded in the 5s, the lowest ever for the 2 years plus that it has been calculated. And from our point of view, when you think about it in the context of Nvidia, it is true. That stock has been the market for the last year, and it's going to move. We're not sure which way, but the options market says it is going to move, and we expect the S&P to move with it.
All right, Julian, the stock market hasn't worried too much about where yields are, right? And again, even when we started the year and there were 6 cuts that were priced, and now, we have maybe 1 or 2 this year. Let's talk about inflation for a second here. So if the Fed keeps saying that, 2%, they're going to stay pat with like higher for longer, that sort of thing. At some point, do you have to start figuring out what the cumulative gains have been since we got above that 2% and kind of took off into 2022? Because, do they have to actually keep yields much longer for, higher for longer than a lot of folks think that they might have to do because of those cumulative gains over the last few years?
I think that's some of the dialogue. And as much as we may not want to acknowledge it, there's no question about the fact the feedback loop from equity prices into confidence, into financial conditions is definitely there and has been for a number of years in central banking. And, people want to compare this to 1995, the dawn of the internet revolution. We're fully behind the idea that generative AI is going to be a game changer over the long term. But the difference between now and 1995, where you basically had a straight shot up for 3 years uninterrupted, is the Fed started cutting rates into the kind of economy we have now when inflation was already 2.1% versus 2.8 now, and stocks were trading 14 times, not 23 times.
Fair play. In terms of the market, here's what I'll say, okay? Do I feel like the stock market is overvalued? The answer is, I can't say it's overvalued. Can I say the market's undervalued? No, I can't say that either. I think we're probably on, somewhere in the middle, or maybe more toward overvaluation than undervaluation, if I'm to look at the whole entire market. But that doesn't mean there's not a phenomenal amount of opportunities out there, because there's opportunities all over this market, okay? Appreciate you guys joining me as always. Thanks so much for being here. As pinned comment down there, I'm going to put my Twitch channel. Also put my brand new workshop I have for you guys that's free to access. Goes into 7 steps to $1 million plus in stocks. So yeah, hope you guys enjoy that. Thanks for joining me. Much love and have a great day.